Coming up now is another sparkling Two Mikes podcast.
Sometimes you mention someone and a couple of days later they drop dead. I mean, that's happened in the past, hasn't it?
It has happened in the past, but I can't be made responsible for that. You know, I don't actually have the power of life and death over people.
Is that right?
Although many would say that, you know, my influence on other people's lives is enormous.
Now, how about this from Paul? I like this. He said, how funny would it be if the whole Melbourne crowd stood up and shouted, "Who are you?" to Roy Hodgson? That'd be brilliant. We should try and organise that, actually.
Yeah, we should.
Imagine.
Yeah,
what are you doing standing down there? Here's one from...
what about, you know, what are you doing here? Why?
Yeah. We don't know what you're doing, or something like that.
Roy, what are you doing here?
Yeah. Genuine Junk says this. Porky's got O-levels in double Dutch.
No, I haven't, actually.
And Mikey says, is that the, I can't use the word, the worst system ever for horse race betting?
Well, you say that, but I mean, there is no sure way of getting a winner on a horse race. Even if the favourite is stacked odds on favourite, something can always go wrong. And on the basis of the fact that the Grand National is the most popular race in the world because of its complexity and its enormous, and tiring journey that a horse has to make to get to the finishing post.
Tiring journey?
Well, it's very tiring.
Of course it's tiring.
Yeah, and I have to say that anything could go wrong, and that's why it's such a lottery that nobody can possibly predict the winner of the Grand National. It's impossible.
And that's why I don't want to ask you any questions about it, because I don't know which questions are going to figure in the Porky
absolutely,
quiz, you see.
absolutely.
Here's one from Lee, who says, let's not forget that Roy took Fulham to the final of the Europa League.
Yeah,
we just said that.
Yeah.
He says, I'm sure he had the respect of that squad. Just ask Danny Murphy.
Yeah.
Well, Danny Murphy has previously said that he has a lot of respect and a lot of time for Roy Hodgson.
He has indeed.
But he alone is the one person I've ever heard saying that.
Yes.
And I mean, of course, Danny Murphy is entitled to his opinion, and his opinion may be more valid as a player who worked for Roy Hodgson, but as a punter who is supposedly waiting for the pearls of wisdom coming from Roy Hodgson's mouth.
Yes.
And as somebody who paid his wages because he took the money out of the FA, I'm not satisfied.
Well, Danny, who is a great guy, great pundit, and I hasten to suggest a friend of mine.
He's a friend of yours,
Yes. I think he's going to move eventually towards the coaching side of football and all that. And I think when he speaks about Roy Hodgson, I think he does actually, think about the coaching qualities and qualifications that the man has, because that's behind the scenes that we don't see. But Danny's a professional footballer who's seen that.
But we've also spoken to other professional footballers who have worked with Hodgson who thought he was useless.
We have spoken to footballers who said that they thought his coaching methods are outdated, but I suppose that's an individual opinion, isn't it?
Indeed.
But I think Danny was making his assessment on that. Whatever, the views on Roy Hodgson will be diverse, but at the end of the day, you look at his record, he won nothing.
Mark says this, did you know that Inter Milan were runners-up in the UEFA Cup under Roy Hodgson?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, but so what? The word there is runners-up.
Yes.
He didn't win anything.
Fulham were runners-up.
He has not won anything.
Yeah.
How about this from Stephen? He says, did Porky pick Dustin Johnson earlier in the week? I put £50 on him, and do I lose my dough?
No, you don't. You get your money back.
Because he didn't start the tournament, you get your money back.
You do get your money back, and I didn't pick just Dustin Johnson. I picked Rory McIlroy.
It was Mark Donaldson who said that the better bet, rather than to bet Dustin Johnson to win, was to have him leading in the after day one.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
which didn't work out too well.
No, it didn't work out too well, and of course will not now happen. Okay. Now, you said you wanted to get on to the subject of West Ham's manager.
No, you did.
Yes.
Well, if you wish to.
What do you think's going to happen?
Village. Well, I've said I don't think that they can sack him at this late stage of the game. They've basically got 7 or 8 games left to play in the Premier League, which means effectively, 6 or 7 weeks of football.
They've got the worst record.
There is no point at this time to sack your manager, is there?
They've got the worst record in the Premier League that any club has managed to accumulate this season. 5 consecutive losses. So that's 15 points.
What, you mean?
Literally just
do you mean
burned.
In 2017, or do you mean the whole season?
No, the whole season.
Really?
5 consecutive losses.
Blimey.
Yeah. And you have to, preceded by a draw, by the way, so they haven't won in 6. By the way, neither of Middlesbrough, but Middlesbrough only lost 4 in those 6.
Right.
And funny enough, so have Sunderland, who also have lost 5 out of the last 6.
Yeah.
But West Ham's are consecutive, if you see what I mean.
So they're one after the other.
Yeah, one after the other, 5 consecutive defeats. Now, that can't go on. Now,
but no matter, you can lose the next 5 and they still won't sack him. They can't sack him at this time of the season.
Why do you say that?
Because it's ridiculous. You would not. Why would you do it? You're not going to be able to hire anybody else.
Because you have the instincts of survival in the Premier League in the first season that you're in your new stadium, and you know that the ambition at West Ham was not that they were going to plummet down towards relegation with their new stadium. It was that they were going to go like a booster rocket into the top 6 positions in the Premier League with their new stadium.
Well, that's not going to happen.
52,000 fans.
But I mean, look, put that to one side, right? Assume for a moment that even the likes of Karen Brady, Dame Brady, if you like, and the Gold and Sullivan guys have come to the conclusion that that's not going to happen. So all they want is to survive and to stay in the Premier League.
I think there
is no point in them sacking him now, is there?
I don't agree with you. I think today is an absolutely crucial watershed point in the season of West Ham United, and I think they've got to make the most vital decision that's ever been made for the club.
Yeah.
And I think they...
Do you think they should fire him before the Swansea game?
Yes, I do.
What?
I do, honest to God.
What, between now and sort of 3 o'clock on Saturday?
Yes, I do.
Are you joking?
No, I'm not joking.
I think you've finally gone mad.
No, I haven't gone mad. I think that the smack of firm management has got to be applied here. Remember, West Ham have been through this nightmare before. By sticking with Avram Grant, they actually sleepwalked their way into relegation just by simply not doing anything. Who was the famous president who said, "Evil only prospers where good men do nothing"?
Was it not? I don't think it was a president.
Franklin D. Roosevelt.
No, well, he may have said it as well,
yes.
but I don't think he initiated it.
Okay, well, he said it. Yeah. He said it, definitely.
Right. I should check on who was the original author of that.
Yeah. Also, speak quietly but carry a big stick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that might have been Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Yeah. It wasn't actually. It was Harry Truman.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. But I'm saying is that the quote I've just given you, the famous quote I've just given you, evil only happens where good men do nothing.
Yeah.
Can be applied to the situation at West Ham. I'm not saying that anybody's evil, but what I'm saying is no, there are no evil people at West Ham.
He is from Bulgaria, isn't he? Croatia.
Croatia. Yeah. Well, that doesn't make him evil. Croatian people are not necessarily evil. Some of them are.
Not necessarily.
Some of them have been in the past, haven't they?
Well,
as you know from personal experience.
There were some pretty terrible things in the Bosnian War. Yeah,
well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
well,
but that does not include Mr. Slaven Bilic. I can assure you.
Exactly.
So what I'm saying is, I'm not suggesting evilness is about in the West Ham situation. What I'm saying is that sloth and failure is about at West Ham United in terms of the playing pool, which includes the coaches and the good men.
It was Edmund Burke who came out with that first.
Edmund Burke,
yeah, he was born in 1729.
Yeah, not the Edmund Burke of Burke and Hare fame, who went around stealing bodies.
No, this guy's an Irish
selling
statesman.
them to crooked doctors.
This guy's an Irish statesman.
Irish statesman. My name's Edmund Burke, and I'm telling you, that evil only happens where good men do nothing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you. You sounded just like that.
Exactly, yeah. So all I'm saying is, now is the moment for action at West Ham. That is my view.
Okay. Well,
in fact, it should have been action at West Ham should have been 3 games ago.
Yeah, but since it hasn't happened, what are you suggesting? They should just leave whoever is number 2 in charge, or they should hire somebody else?
Well, that is the skill of the plan. The skill of the plan is, I mean, let's face it, Leicester did a brilliant job. Is anybody now still talking about Ranieri and
no one.
bleeding hearts for him and beating the drum for the shocking way he was treated?
Find that I did say at the time, when all these sort of ridiculous people were saying things like, the heart of football has died, and it's been killed and smothered to death, and awful stuff like that. Gary Lineker was the chief mourner, by the way, saying that it was disgraceful.
I don't think he was.
He was. He said it was disgraceful the way
You've got a bit of a downer on Links, haven't you?
Well, I haven't got a downer on him. I just like to remind people what he says about things, because he's not always, the seeker of truth and justice on these matters, right?
Yes.
Anyway, the fact is, of course, now everyone says, "Oh yeah, Leicester did the right thing."
That's right.
Heard Adrian Durham saying it the other day.
Really?
Isn't it? Is there anybody who would now say that Leicester did the wrong thing? Yeah. Of course not. And the idea that they somehow were, doing a terrible disservice to the game is an utter nonsense.
I did it before you. I said it before you. I actually said when it happened, I said it's too late. I said it's not.
No, you said that they should have sacked him at the start of the season.
I did. I said it's not soon enough. I said this thinking pattern should have happened before Christmas because it was obvious they were on a downward. On the downward side of the parabola. And,
the parabola? It's the second time you said that this week.
That's right, yeah.
Is that your word of the week?
No, it's not my word of the week. No, the parabola is there.
Yeah.
By the way, have you noticed that tonight I have not used the L word once?
Have you not?
Oh,
are you sure?
Yes.
Are you absolutely sure?
Certain.
Okay, well, I bet you can't get through the whole show without saying it.
Well, we'll see.
Here's one from Gon, who says, Edmund Burke, for heaven's sake, is Parry now saying philosophers aren't pointless by revering them? He changes his opinion every week.
What are you on about? What does that mean?
Well, Edmund Burke is a philosopher.
Yeah, okay, good for him.
And you don't like philosophers.
Well,
you're now quoting him.
I think philosophers are, by and large, a bunch of con men who go around convincing people that they're... I mean, what about the Maharishi Yogi?
Never mind him.
Hey, well, he was a philosopher.
No, he wasn't. He was a con man.
Well, that's exactly what I'm
philosopher.
saying. Maharishi Yoga,
but he was not considered a great philosopher.
Love, peace.
Yeah.
And Ringo Starr, by the way, is still going around telling everybody love and peace.
Yeah.
And,
he doesn't care. He's got more money than sense.
No, but Ringo is still affected by the Maharishi and still,
Ringo can't believe how lucky he is.
He yields the peace sign.
No.
And every time Ringo puts out a tweet, by the way, he has to leave space at the end for love and peace.
Love and peace, yeah. Idiot. Here's one from Greg. Maybe
That's a bit unfair.
Maybe Porky should put his money where his mouth is and back Bilic to be the next manager to be sacked. You can get on to 4-1.
Well, I don't throw my money away on things like that. Well, no, hang on.
About 100
do you think I'd take any succour or comfort in seeing a man sacked from his job? It's a horrendous thing to happen to anybody. But I'm looking at it from West Ham's perspective.
Yeah, all right. I'm sure you're all the milk of human kindness is oozing out of you.
Now, a Brain of Britain person here called Lizzie says, I think neither of you know how one plays a game of golf. When you start, it's called teeing off, not playing. I think we knew that, didn't we?
We did know that.
Yes, that's right. I think here we were talking about somebody who hasn't teed off, and therefore was he actually deemed to have been playing in the tournament?
Yes, exactly. And also there are some very odd rules in golf. For example, before you are about to hit the ball, for example, if you're standing on the first tee and you are, as they call it, addressing the ball.
Yep.
You are addressing the ball when you put the club head behind the ball. Mm-hmm. So therefore, if something happens to the ball once you put your club head down, that can be deemed to be something that you can be penalised for.
What do you mean if the ball blows off the tee?
If the ball blows off the tee, I mean, if you're playing strict rules of golf, there could be a problem. Same if you're in the rough and you put your club down behind the ball, addressing the ball, and the ball moves, that's a penalty.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a lot of weird rules in golf.
Yeah, there are a lot of weird rules in golf.
Which would not sort of stand up to the test of logic.
Particularly about dropping balls as well and that sort of stuff.
Well,
make sure
you
you
heard
get
Lee
in the right
Westwood
position.
before the start of the tournament saying that he knows that an awful lot of players have taken a sort of unfair advantage when marking their ball on the green, because you're supposed to mark the ball behind the ball, lift the ball up and replace it precisely where you picked it up from.
Yep.
But he was saying that people sometimes put the marker at the side of the ball and then replace the ball
in front of the marker.
In front of the marker.
That's right,
sort of thing.
Gaining an inch or something like that.
Even just half an inch.
Yeah, that's right,
which, of course, is against the rules.
Completely against the rules.
Yeah.
Lee Westwood was the man, of course, who chased me round Royal Lytham St Anne's.
Why?
With a 3-iron, because I suggested that he would never win a major after he pulled out of the Masters.
Was this on the radio, you said?
Yeah, it was on the radio, We were doing the commentary at Royal Lytham St Anne's, and it must have been in the year 2002. Was Royal Lytham St Anne's in 2002?
I couldn't tell you that, but
I think it was either 2 or 3, 2002, 2003.
Right.
And his wife was having, I think it was their first child. And he decided to stay at home rather than go to the Masters because it was very close to the birth of his child.
Right.
And I said, whilst I respect his dedication to his duties and his responsibilities as a father that he's about to become, I don't think Michael Schumacher would have pulled out of a Grand Prix because his wife was about to give birth. Because, as far as Schumacher's concerned,
winning was everything.
Winning was everything.
And neither would Ayrton Senna.
And neither would Ayrton Senna. And he took terrible exception to it. And for a number of years, we were at loggerheads. But we got over it.
When you say chased you round, I mean, did he actually catch you?
He was looking for me.
Yeah.
And a couple of people told me.
And he's quite a big guy as well.
Oh, yeah, very big guy,
He would have done you a lot of damage.
He would have done me. Well, no, he wouldn't actually. He wouldn't have resorted to physical violence. I think he wanted to verbally joust with me.
Is that right?
I'll give him the benefit.
And what did you do? Did you go and hide?
Well, I was in the champagne tent, and
it's not very hard to find you then.
yeah, and
that'll be him lying down over there.
Well, no, and I decided that the better part of valour was stoicness.
Right.
So I stayed in the champagne tent, had some more champagne. I drank champagne in those days.
Yeah.
It was before I became a semi-invalid.
You're now calling yourself a semi-invalid.
Well,
when did this happen? Sorry. Sorry, that's rather sort of slightly poked in there. When did you suddenly become a semi-invalid?
Well, no, I was a semi-invalid for the first year or so after I contracted acute heart failure.
Ah, right, okay.
I've since fought back to normality.
So you're not an invalid at all?
No, I'm not an invalid, but only 1/3 of my heart works, but I just cope with it because I refuse to let it slow me down.
What would be the word for a third invalid, like as opposed to semi-invalid?
What do you mean?
Well, if you were to say I'm not, you said semi-invalid. If you were a third invalid, what would it be?
A one-third invalid?
Yeah.
I think it'd be called semi-incapacitated.
Really?
Yes.
Well, no, I was thinking of a word that didn't involve semi, which was in two, isn't it?
Oh,
what I'm looking for is a word that breaks everything to three.
What about a tripart invalid?
Tri-invalid, maybe.
Tri-invalid, tripart invalid.
Stephen says this, in horse racing, if you bet anti-post and the horse doesn't run, you lose your money.
Yes.
Golf may be the same.
I
think we've established that it's not.
No, I think anti-post... I think, that's when you put a bet on like months in advance, isn't it? Because you think you know something other people don't, so to speak. Yeah, no, I think that's
somebody's found a press release. It's amazing what people find.
Oh, yes.
Somebody's found a press release. This is Steve the cabbie. And the press release is from, believe it or not, the BBC.
Oh, yes.
Mike Parry to present 606 on BBC Radio 5 Live.
Well, there you go.
Parry joined Talk Radio in 1999, better known as Talk Sport, and worked there until February 2011.
Exactly.
Mike Parry said of his new role on 5 Live, and I quote, "In broadcasting terms, I feel I've just had a call from the manager of Real Madrid." What a complete and utter scumbag you are. What an opportunity to rise to the challenge of hosting one of the most famous slots in British broadcasting.
Yes.
It's FA Cup weekend, and I can't wait to meet the 606 listeners for the first time.
Well, there you go.
That's appalling.
What do you mean it's appalling?
That's horrendous.
Why?
Well, you sound like, what's his face?
Who?
Keane, the guy who played, his boyhood dream to play for everybody.
Oh, I see what you mean. Robbie Keane.
Yeah,
I always wanted to be a Liverpool player. Always wanted to be a Celtic player. Yeah, that's right.
You're talking about, it's just been like going to get a call from the manager of Real Madrid.
Well,
you didn't last the season, did you?
Well, I mean, no, that wasn't the case at all. Other options came along.
You stand in for regular presenter Mark Chapman on Radio 5 Live with Robbie Savage on Saturday, 19th of February.
That's right. Got on very well with Robbie, and it was all going very well.
Yeah.
And
that's not what I heard.
Oh, well, I don't care what you heard.
Although, to be fair, he does listen to our show. He did tweet us the other day.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And then other opportunities came along.
Oh, yeah.
And, one picks up where one leaves off and all that kind of stuff.
So when you went off to do the old satellite broadcasting thing, that was a bit like leaving Real Madrid to go and join Lincoln City, wasn't it?
Not really. It was like leaving Real Madrid to go and start an exciting new venture, reaching for the stars, and who knows what could have come of it had it been properly run.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Who can say?
Who can say? Yeah, absolutely. So there we are.
Yeah.
Now then, I'll tell you what I want to talk to you about.
Yes.
I want to talk to you about an issue which is bothering me in terms of the world's economy.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know there's a company in Saudi Arabia which is worth so much, it's worth like almost the rest of the stock market put together?
Really?
Yeah.
What sort of company is it?
Well, it's an oil company. Now, the Prime Minister is out in the Middle East and she's gone on the plane.
Back, isn't she?
Is she back? Yeah, okay.
Back, yeah.
She's been out in the Middle East, and she went on the plane that was not the official RAF plane because Prince Charles nabbed that one for his tour, okay?
Yeah.
However, whilst there, the Prime Minister used a 2-day trip to the Desert Kingdom to hold intensive talks with Saudi ministers and executives at the state-owned oil company Aramco.
Aramco, yeah, I've heard of them.
Right?
Yeah, that's been the oil company of sort of the Saudis for many decades.
That's right. Now, this company is so big, right? They want to bring it to the world's biggest stock market, to flotation in London.
Right.
But nobody knows what effect it will have on the British economy, the stock market, or the world economy. The firm is set to be valued at 1.6 trillion. Trillion.
Uh-huh.
Right, 1.6 trillion.
Right.
When it sells 5% of its shares on the open market, London is in a race with New York to win the flotation, which will be worth hundreds of millions to the victor.
Right. So they're only selling 5% of the shares. They're not. So the 1 trillion valuation is for the whole company.
Exactly.
And they're selling 5% of that.
Yeah. What they're saying is that when they sell the 5%, whatever the 5% goes for, they reckon will add up to the company worth 1.6 trillion. You see what I mean?
Right, yeah.
The other 19 parts of it.
So 20 times that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly right. But the problem is, apparently, it's so vast. The Saudi Arabian state oil company Aramco is the most valuable firm in the world, worth £1.6 trillion. It is bigger. Get this. This is incredible. It is bigger than the economy of Italy.
Wow.
Incredible.
Well, to be honest, you wouldn't want to buy any shares in Italy.
Well, no, you wouldn't know. Even if just a small part of the company floats, it would still dwarf every other business on the London Stock Exchange put together, which has a value of 2.8 trillion in total.
Although, is it possible, as Anthony has just tweeted here, he says Saudi Aramco won't be valued as much as they believe, though. You heard it here first. Is it possible that they're kind of ramping up the expectation on this thing?
Well, the reason why it's worth so much, and people say, how can it be? You know, if the oil price has dropped to sort of $50 a barrel and it used to be $130 a barrel, the reason is because of the reserves it has.
Right.
And it says Aramco produces 10.2 million barrels of oil a day, enough to fill 643 Olympic swimming pools, which I don't think is a lot, really, do you?
Well, I mean, they limit us. I mean, they could produce a lot more if they want to, but they don't want to.
But the key factor to its wealth, to its value, its reserves could meet the world's energy needs in total for 7.5 years.
Right.
The revenues prop up lavish spending by the Saudi state, meaning foreign workers who go there pay no tax, and public sector staff get large and free bonuses and pensions for life.
Right.
I mean, it's an incredible place.
Are you going to be buying into it then?
Well, I mean, you have to sort of think about it, don't you?
Well, if you've got spare money, I suppose.
Yes.
Depends how much the shares are.
My baby don't mess around because she loves me so, and this I know for sure. But does she really wanna, but can't stand to see me walk out the door? Don't try to fight the feeling, 'cause the thought alone is killing me right now. Thank God.
We are the Two Mites. Coming up a little bit later on, it is, of course, time for the Porky Quiz, and it is on the Grand National.
Yep.
Here's one from Dazza, who says, I don't want to see anyone sacked, says Porky. How many people did you sack during your reign of terror?
Oh, no, I never had a reign of terror.
Ask
No.
Porky, #plank.
If I had to reposition someday, I always did it with the greatest of dignity, care, respect, and...
What about the guy you sacked because you thought he was the right guy, it turned out to be the wrong guy?
Well, that's...
and he had to cancel his conservatory being built in the middle of it because he thought he'd been fired.
Yeah, he did, yeah. That was a mistake, I agree, but I rectified it pretty soon afterwards. And,
Really?
and anyway, that was just a mistake. That wasn't an act of malice or anything like that. So I wouldn't get involved in malice or anything like that.
No.
I've seen people who've been sacked, and shock and horror on their face, and their lives ruined and wrecked, and penniless, 12 months later and all that kind of stuff. It's not nice.
It's not pleasant, no. How about this from Daniel? It literally took 37 minutes before Porky said literally. Literally a new record.
No.
Well, he's counting it. He must have heard it at 37 minutes.
I think he's got wave echoes in his ears.
And Martin says West Ham only normally last 2 or 3 seasons in the top flight before they get relegated again.
Yes. Well, no, that's not true. I mean, the whole idea of going to the London Stadium was that they would become a permanent top half of the Premier League team, and they were hoping a top 6 team. I tell you what, somebody's going to examine this at the end of the season and say, the West Ham season, when it turned to ashes in their mouth, and it literally did, because the sense of optimism at the start of the season, the problem was that they felt so confident about their move to the new stadium that it would be the panacea to all their ills.
Well, it's a little bit like a team inheriting, or not inheriting, but suddenly getting a massive input of funds.
I agree.
Oh, look, we've got all this money now, so now we're going to be a top 5 team. It doesn't work like that, does it?
No, it doesn't work like that. And also the grounds cause them untold problems. The fans don't like it, and
police don't like it.
Police don't like it, and all the location of it, and all that
Visiting
kind of
teams
stuff.
don't like it.
And so there's more to what they called, the most seamless transfer to a new ground in the history of football. There's more to it than that, and they're still coping with it, still dealing with it. However, I find it difficult to believe that West Ham will get relegated this season, don't you?
Well, I mean, they're only 5 points ahead of the relegation at the bottom of the table. And, I mean, all they need to do is lose another 2 games and watch teams like Swansea and Crystal Palace and Hull win a couple of games, and suddenly they're down there.
But I think we're pretty much agreed that 2 teams are down already. That's Middlesbrough and Sunderland.
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah, exactly. Which means that and Swansea are floating around on 28 points. So it means...
But Swansea are in better form than West Ham, as are Hull.
Well, Swansea, because I've got it here actually, out of the last 6 have only won 1 and drawn 1 and lost 4.
Yeah.
So they're all doing pretty badly. The team that really raced to survival is Crystal Palace, who have won 4 out of their last 6.
Yeah, but they lost most recently during the week, didn't they?
Yes, they did, but they beat Chelsea amongst those 4 wins. So I think they've probably done enough to save themselves. So I'd be really surprised if West Ham gets sucked down into it because. Slaven Bilic is not a bad manager. He's run into a period of bad form, and his players aren't relegation fodder players. So I don't think they'll get sacked. They'll get relegated anyway. However, the smack of firm management is going to be needed to be applied.
Smack of firm management
at some stage,
as if that's some kind of sort of policy that you are very much in favour of.
I am very much in favour of the smack of firm management. You've got to let people know who's in charge. There are managers and there are workers, and there has to be a division between the two. And the problem with communism was always that they tried to pretend that managers and workers are the same people with the same responsibilities, who get the same rewards in life. So a street cleaner in Moscow was earning the same amount of money as a brain surgeon who was saving people's lives in the Politburo. And when you build a society on that basis... I'm just giving you an example. When you build a society on that basis, obviously it will collapse and crumble because the one thing that drives people on in life is the incentive to prove, to achieve, and to better.
Okay. How about this one from David Edinburgh? He says, a few years back when Porky worked on 5 Live, he did back all 40 horses each way in the National, and he actually made a profit.
No, I didn't.
You never worked for 5 Live when the National was on, did you?
I don't think so.
You never worked for 5 Live, period. I mean, you did a couple of shows for him.
Yeah, well, I mean...
You wouldn't be described as ever working for BBC 5 Live.
Well, yes, I was I'm amongst the pantheon of greats that have...
You went there for about 2 weeks.
No.
You went there for 2 weeks.
No, I was
and then they never asked you back.
I was amongst the pantheon of greats who have...
Because you couldn't get on with Robbie Savage.
Who have graced the BBC studios. And I think you'll find that I'm on the, the board up there with the others.
On what board?
The board of...
what board?
Star presenters over the years.
Well,
and
there's
all
a
that
board,
kind of stuff.
is there?
Yeah.
Well, is your name on it?
Well...
Where is this board?
I don't want to.
No, I want to know. I want to go visit it. I'd like to ask if they can show me around. I'd like to see your name up in lights.
Now, listen, you know as well as I do that the BBC have recently moved into new HQ, so I can't tell you exactly where.
Oh, you think they've moved the board?
Where the board of stars is?
It might not be easy to find it.
Sorry?
It might be easy to find the board.
Well, I don't like to go on about these sort of things.
Okay.
It's there, and people mention occasionally to me about my conquering mission at the BBC.
Yeah, I remember when you were on it, people kept tweeting saying, "Why is Porky on the BBC? And why does he kid?" You said Talk Sport at one point.
Yeah, I did.
When you were on it, which is easily done.
Yeah.
I have to say. How about this from James? He says, "I have £5 each way, or €5 each way, and 150 to 1 on Jason Duffner. That's a pretty good bet, and 20 euros to win on Rory at 7 to 1."
Okay.
Which is not bad.
That's not bad at all.
Stephen says, bad news for McIlroy. Porky has picked him, and we will now see a second-round collapso and missed cut.
Absolutely not, honestly.
Which is very possible.
Yeah, no, I think not.
I'd have to say.
I think not.
And Tom says, it's West Ham's board who are at fault. They promised millions for players and only got mostly loan players.
Yep.
Which I think is possibly true.
Yeah, well, it could be as well.
Yeah.
What did you think of the way the news broke on Dustin Johnson withdrawing on the first tee?
Well,
I mean, you and I have been in the business a long time. I've rarely seen such a melee of interest and people around him pushing and jostling, sticking cameras and microphones. I thought it was brilliant.
Well, interesting the way the question came up earlier about do I get my money back? Because some people on Twitter now are saying surely he did start if he was actually out there on the tee as if he was ready to play.
No, what he did is he went out on the tee and he picked up a club and he said, I will know the minute I swing a club in my hand.
That's what I mean.
Just to warm up whether I can do it. And he said he couldn't.
But that would be considered by many people and possibly by the bookies, and I don't know the answer to this, that he had actually started the tournament.
I think you've got to address a ball first, haven't you?
Well, I don't know.
I don't think he did.
No, he certainly didn't address a ball. But what I'm saying is that he got himself togged up, he got himself ready for the game, he walked out onto the tee.
Yeah.
And I would say as soon as you walk onto the tee, you are taking part in a tournament. Before you hit a ball.
I mean, you may be right. There may be a point that's got to be discussed.
If you want to withdraw from a tournament, you have to withdraw from the tournament before you walk out there.
Did he actually get to the tee?
As far as I understand,
and was announced on the tee.
It was announced on the tee that he wasn't going to be playing.
No, was it announced that he was? And now, ladies and gentlemen, world number one, Dustin Johnson, arrives on the first tee.
That I don't think happened.
No, that's what I'm saying. So I think that's maybe it.
But what I'm saying is, physically, if you walk out of the changing rooms and you walk out onto the golf course and you approach the tee, and if you walk anywhere near the tee, which would suggest that you're about to play, well, I think you're playing.
Actually, I'm not sure, MG, whether that actually happened. I'm just following here, right? Because I didn't see it live on TV. I was doing lots of things today, but apparently Dustin Johnson walked to the practice range. He tried a couple of shots and then turned around and told people he was feeling too much pain from falling downstairs and would not be entering the Masters this year. He cut a dejected figure as he walked back from the practice green to withdraw from the Masters.
Yeah.
So I don't think he did get to the first tee, actually.
Maybe he didn't get to the first tee. Well, I mean, but that is what the debate will be about.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the bookies will all say, if they can, they'll keep the money because that's what they'd like to do.
Yes. I thought Justin Rose looked good. I often think that the way a golfer dresses gives me confidence or lack of it in the way he's going to approach the game,
Yeah.
And I thought Justin Rose looked great today. He had that sort of striped short sleeve polo shirt on with one of those typical sort of golfer's jumpers, the short sleeve one.
What, are you going to give us a fashion rundown now of your view of the people playing in the Masters?
Well, I can't stand
Do you back everybody who plays in blue?
Eh?
Do you back everybody that plays in blue?
No. But I do think that golfers who go out to be garish, with horribly checked trousers and all that, should be banned from the competition because I think it's disrespectful to the game and to the dignity of the game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just reading some tweets from Michelle Dewberry. Remember that girl that was going to take us up to a hole and show us around?
Yes.
Apparently she was on Question Time last night.
She's on Question Time.
She likes a bit of publicity, doesn't she?
She does like a bit of publicity, yeah. And she's also on...
She came on our show, though.
She came on our show. She's also on the Sky Show.
Oh, yeah, The Pledge.
The Pledge.
Yeah, she's on that, yeah.
And I think she was doing like a pay-per-view somewhere, all in the space of 24 hours.
Yeah.
So she's a very popular lady.
She's a very busy
She's
woman.
very good at what she does.
She is very good at what she does, yeah. I'm sorry I missed that.
Yes.
Here's one from Revenger, who says, so discussion about West Ham turns into Porky describing communist Russia.
Well, no.
Quite the transition.
No. I just have to make the... look, if you've got enough knowledge of the way the world works, why not use it to explain things?
I agree.
Did you know, by the way, because I didn't, that Lee Westwood, who had that sensational round today and came back in 30, had Alan Shearer accompanying him.
What, caddying for him?
No, I don't think so, but I think he was around, like part of his entourage.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I think he was around.
Well, I think they're quite good mates, though. I mean, Lee Westwood's quite a matey, chummy guy with quite a lot of footballers.
Oh, he is, yeah.
He's a very nice bloke, actually.
Yeah, I think he was with him during the practice before the start of the tournament.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thomas says, MG, the only board Mike Parry's been on is the Monopoly Go Directly to Jail board.
Well, that's very nice, isn't it, eh? Huh?
And apparently, thanks to Julian, who says you only declared to have been started the game once you've addressed the ball.
Exactly.
Well, you see,
I think that's exactly what I said.
I think you can argue about that.
Yeah, well, I don't think you can. I wouldn't. I would stop pushing this ridiculous fantasy of yours because it ain't going to happen.
You don't know anything about golf. When golf has some very, very arcane rules, and they're very strange. Some of them.
I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can remember your name because there ain't no one for to give you no pain. La 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 la.
We are the two mics, and of course that music has been chosen specifically to be themed along with the Porky Quiz tonight, which is on the Grand National.
Yes.
I'm about to tell you that, here are the questions from the Independent Quizmasters.
Oh, that's the first set, is it?
In an envelope. You see, once again, you say this in order to try and put a thought in people's minds that there's more than one set of questions.
The second set under the...
You've never, ever...
Under the table.
If you'd like to...
When I start getting them right early on, you watch what happens, okay? Watch what happens.
If you'd like to come and check whether there's another set of questions here, you're more than welcome.
No. I'm not going to
so.
stoop to that level.
No, because you don't want me checking what you've got in front of you, do you?
There's nothing in front of me.
You've got an awful lot of papers.
Send your spies in, do whatever you want.
I don't have any spies.
Mine's pure brain power, okay?
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to tell everybody that the Porky Quiz is live on Facebook as we speak.
Yes.
And I shall be sending a link out on Twitter as soon as I can do that.
Yes.
Well, first I'm going to open the questions up.
Yes.
As you can see, only one section of Quizmaster's envelopes is in front of me. Yeah. I've got here... Oh, here we go. There it is.
Just one piece of paper in that envelope.
One piece of paper.
Yeah.
If you'd like to see if there's anything else in there, there's nothing else.
No,
nothing else in there. Right. There we go. Right, if you get one correct...
Just interested where the other envelope is, that's all.
There is no other envelope.
Right, anyway, go on, yeah.
You see, this is what you do. You obfuscate and confuse people. Right, if you get a question correct, you will hear this sound.
Crowd going ballistic!
If you get one incorrect, you will hear this sound.
Oh, right, okay. Won't be many of those.
That's very good, yeah. Now, you've said previously you're an expert in the Grand National, so are you ready for question number 1?
Yes, I am.
The first race was held in 1839
Yeah.
amidst confusion over weighing procedures. Who won it?
1839.
1839, the first Grand National.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the name of the horse, obviously.
Now, there were 3 races... There were 3 races before 1839, in 1836, 7 and 8. And I'm just thinking aloud here because they were won by the Duke in the first 2 years and then Sir William. And then,
the Duke?
Yeah, when they entered the formal race in 1839, which was the first one which is known as the modern-day Grand National, the horse that won that one was...
Why are you looking down?
Because I'm thinking.
Oh, really?
Was...
If you get it right, I think we might have to have a steward's inquiry.
I believe it was... I think the Duke and Sir William came... It was Sir William!
Incorrect.
No!
It was, in fact, called Lottery.
Lottery?
Yeah. You were going to say that, weren't you? But you thought I'd rumble you cheating.
No.
5-1. Question number 2.
Yeah.
What is the fastest winning time recorded at the race?
Fastest winning time?
Yes.
The fastest winning time recorded at the race?
Yes.
You just want the time. You don't want the horse or
I don't.
or the jockey.
I mean, the horse you can tell me, but I'm more interested in the time.
The fastest winning time is precisely...
Yes.
I was thinking aloud here now. Fastest winning time. Do you know that the horse that actually recorded the fastest winning time was the one that finished the race that was scrapped because of the confusion at the start?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
but I'm not
that's
interested in that.
Yeah.
You haven't got time for this
So,
kind of...
and this thing aloud. So that leaves
this kind
the
of
fastest winning
deviation.
time to be... now, I need, obviously, 10% either way on this because it's a very precise number.
It's a very precise number.
Right.
I will give you some leeway.
Right.
I'll tell you what I'll give you.
Yes.
I'll give you 10 seconds either way.
Right, OK.
How about that?
It was 9 minutes and 11 seconds.
Incorrect.
No!
It was 8 minutes and 47.8 seconds.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
It wasn't. It was never that fast.
It was 8 minutes and 47.8 seconds. Do you know when?
When?
1990. Do you know who? The name of the horse?
I don't believe this.
Mr. Frisk. That's the name of the horse.
I think that's rubbish.
Well, you may think it's rubbish.
I think that's absolute rubbish.
Okay. Question number 3.
Yeah.
Who is Beecher's Brook named after?
Beecher.
You'll have to be a bit more specific, I'm
right.
afraid.
Beecher's Brook is named after...
Good choice, though. Good guess.
Yeah. Thinking aloud here. Yes, I know it's named after.
Yeah, go on.
It's named after William Beecher. And William Beecher was one of the original proponents of the race, going right back to when the land was acquired at Aintree, which was then known as the district of Waterloo, in around about 1836. But it was definitely it was Captain William Beecher.
Incorrect.
No!
It was Captain Martin Beecher.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
No.
Who, in fact, was a jockey who took shelter in the brook after being unseated. So you got that one wrong.
He said, by the way, when he was in the brook,
Yeah.
he said, the taste of water without whiskey is vile.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Yes.
Shame you got his name wrong. Question number 4.
Yeah.
What is the oldest winning horse?
The oldest winning horse?
Yeah.
The oldest winning horse...
I'll have to hurry you here as well because we're really running out of time.
Was Red Rum in its third incantation, i.e. when it won its third race, and it's 12 years of age.
Incorrect.
No, it's not incorrect.
It is.
It's not.
The oldest horse was Peter Simple, who was 15.
No.
Yeah, he was, in 1853.
Well, 1853's rubbish.
What do you mean it's
That's
rubbish?
not the modern Grand National. This is a stitch-up
It's
again.
the Grand National.
It's not the Grand National.
That's what it was called.
How many of our millions of listeners can remember anything about the 1853 Grand National? Why didn't you ask questions about races that our millions of listeners have seen, you oaf?
Okay, well, I was just asking the questions that are written down.
Honestly.
Question number 5.
Yeah.
Which horse has run in more races than any other?
Which horse is running more races than any other?
Yes.
See, Red Rum won 3.
Is that the only one you know?
And came second
so
twice.
Red Rum's the answer to everyone.
Well, I know you ran at least 5, don't I? But you're gonna
Exile on Main Street.
You're probably going to go on about some obscure horse that never won the blinking race. So, nobody will ever heard of it.
The question is not about
ridiculous question.
How many victories, it's how many times it ran.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say Red Rum.
Incorrect.
No. So which mysterious animal was it?
It was Manifesto, which ran in 8 races between 1895 and 1904. It won twice.
1895 and 1904?
Well, it won twice.
What a load of rubbish.
Well, why didn't you look at any facts at all about the Grand
Can't
National?
you make this contemporary so that people can actually join in the quiz
It's
and
nothing
say,
to do with me.
I remember seeing that. Oh, I remember this one.
Well, there's some contemporary questions coming up.
Well, blimey, I mean, it's not about the history of the Grand National, it's about the Grand National, which is being raced tomorrow in Aintree.
These are all questions about the Grand National. Question number 6.
Yeah.
5 winners were bred in France.
Yeah.
Can you name 2 of them? Now, that's an easy question because you've got 2 out of 5 possibilities you can get.
5 winners.
And 2 of the horses that are in this list of 5, I'll help you out here, are very much in the modern era.
Very much in the modern era.
So you can't complain about that.
Bred in France or born in France?
Bred in France.
Bred in France. Right, one of them was probably Amberley House. Thinking aloud. The other one would have been L'Escargot.
Incorrect on both counts.
No, L'Escargot must be French.
You could have had Mon Môme, 2009.
Yeah.
You could have had Neptune Colonges, 2012. Which were the 2 I thought you would have got. You wouldn't have probably known Rugny, 1874, Le Tour the Third, 1909, and Alcibiade, 1865.
Unbelievable.
So far, you haven't got any right.
Over 100 years ago. Well, the questions are so ridiculous.
Well, they're not. The question number 7, who's the most successful national jockey? Meaning, which one has won the most races?
Well, no jockeys have won it more than twice.
You sure?
In the modern Grand National, of course not.
I don't know what you mean about the modern. I mean, the last time we did a quiz about the Merseyside Derby, you stipulated that you didn't want anything before 1958.
Yeah, but
and in this case, you did not stipulate.
Yeah, but you're going back to 1858.
Yeah, but you didn't stipulate any rules about what years you wanted to be asked about.
The most successful jockeys.
You just said you're an expert on the Grand National
of the modern era are Ruby Walsh, who's won it twice.
It's not the modern era; it's the Grand National.
The guy who won it in 2 successive nationals last year and the year before, old Rashley, and Dunwoody won it twice. So it's either of those 3.
It's not. Incorrect. It's George Stevens, who actually won it 5 times.
When?
In the 19th century.
What the years?
The last one he won was 1870.
How ridiculous, honestly.
Question number 8. Now, this one you should know.
Right.
Katie Walsh is the highest placed female jockey.
Yeah.
Finishing 3rd in 2012.
Yes.
What was the name of her horse on that occasion?
Katie Walsh, 2012. So that's, what do we know? 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12. 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So this woman finished 3rd on a horse 5 years ago.
She's not just any woman. She's Katie Walsh. She's Ruby Walsh's sister.
Katie Walsh. And I'm supposed to know the name of the horse.
Well, it's the modern era.
Yeah, but it's the horse that finished 3rd.
She's a female jockey. It was a big story at the time. She came 3rd in the Grand National.
Nobody ever remembers who comes 2nd.
Really?
Let alone 3rd.
Okay. Well, you don't know then.
I would say it would have to be something related to the Walsh family, so I will say it was called Flower of Ireland.
No. Seabass. You must remember Seabass. Even I remember that. How about this one then?
Yeah.
What was the name of last year's winner?
Last year's winner.
You're not going to complain about this question, are you? This is about last year's winner of the Grand National.
Last year's winner of the Grand National was...
Why are you looking down again?
Because I'm thinking...
Yeah.
Was it reminded me of a James Bond title, Quantum of Force. I'm thinking aloud here.
Quantum of Force?
Quantum of Force. Quantum of Soleil or something like that. It was... it definitely had a Q in it. A Q, yeah.
Okay.
Q.
I can't comment on that, obviously. I can't help you. Can't give you any clues.
I'm going to have to say...
Cues or otherwise.
Quantum bearing.
Incorrect. It's Rule of the World. How can you do a quiz on the Grand National and not know what it was the winner last year? Rule the World.
Rule the World.
Didn't you have money on it?
No.
I thought you won money last year.
No, I didn't. No, not on the winner.
All right.
My horse came 2nd.
Finally, see if you get 1 out of 10. What is the distance of the course in kilometres?
It's not given in kilometres. On the race card, which I've seen, it's given in miles and yards.
Well, I'll tell you what. since you've only got no points at all...
Because of the stupidity of the questions.
I will allow you to answer it in miles, but you have to be absolutely right.
It's 4 miles, 514 yards.
That is correct.
Thank you.
So you've got one out of 10. Well, do you want to have a guess at how many kilometres that is?
No, I don't, because it's not given in kilometres. On the race card, it's given in miles and yards. Well, so why would you want to ask it in kilometres?
Well, because if you're French, for example...
I couldn't care less about the French.
Well,
this is an English race.
And
in England, we measure it in miles and yards.
Five horses from France have won it.
You see, that's a proper fact about the Grand National. And I knew loads of other proper facts about the Grand National.
Well, like what?
Devon Lock, 1956. Why didn't you ask me about that?
Devon Lock what?
Foyne-Avon, 1973. Why didn't you ask me about that?
Well, what about it?
Because it won 100-1 because all the other horses were rammed up, 23 of them, at the 23rd fence.
Uh-huh.
Devon Lock was the horse that was going to sprint for the finish when it suddenly dived on its belly, owned by the Queen Mother.
Okay.
Why didn't you ask me about that?
What was the name of last year's winner? That's quite a good one. You should have got that one.
We've already done that.
No, but why didn't you get that one right?
I didn't get that right because that is too...
You thought it had a Q in it?
No.
Why didn't you know the name of Katie Walsh's horse, which was a very famous horse?
Because nobody does.
Yeah, because
nobody does.
Well, people remember the name of the horse in which the female jockey does very well.
Why didn't you ask me about Alden Eaty and Bob Champion, the greatest story ever in the National? The man who had testicular cancer was going to die, who won the race.
Do you know what
Why didn't you ask me about any of that?
Oh, because I don't write the questions.
No, you have an influence with the quizmasters. They were so ridiculous, the first
I don't think
6 questions.
Well, let me ask you another. I'll give you an opportunity to get a bonus question, right?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
What's the name of Katie Walsh's horse this year?
I have no idea. Because it is totally irrelevant.
Why is it irrelevant?
Because the race hasn't even been run yet, and we were having a quiz about the Grand National.
Incorrect.
Not tomorrow's Grand National.
Incorrect. She's
the
not
history of the Grand National.
She fell off her horse yesterday and broke her arm. You're doing a quiz on the Grand National. You didn't even know that.
No.
It's a shocking state of affairs.
Shocking
1 out of
questions.
10.
Worse than ever. But it reached a new low in the paucity of the questions.
Absolute rubbish.
Our millions of listeners will agree with me.
No, they won't.
I know so much about the Grand National which you could have asked me about, which you deliberately
didn't even know the name of last year's winner.
I knew the name historically of all the famous races. I mean, why didn't you ask me, what instead of going on about old Martin Beecher, why didn't you ask me what number fence it is? It's number 6, right?
But you didn't get his
name right. The Foyne-Avon fence, number 7.
You didn't know what the
Canal Turn, number 8. Why didn't you ask me about any of those?
I didn't write the questions.
Yes, you did.
Anyway, never mind. That was 1 out of 10.
Disgrace.
He would have only got 0 out of 10 if it hadn't been for my absolute generosity.
Rubbish.
That was the
I gave
Porky
you
quiz.
exactly the right answer to the 10th
whining.
question.
We are the two Mikes. William says this. I wonder if Porky's ever written an article or been quoted in cycling magazines. Have you ever done that?
Why?
Ever written for a cycling magazine?
No, why would I?
Well, I don't know.
I tell you,
you're a man of many parts.
No, I tell you, you were going on about sacking before and all that kind of stuff, right? Now, when I arrived down in Fleet Street for the first time as the new Supremo of the Birmingham Evening Mail, became their London editor in their London office.
How many people were you in charge of?
6.
6 people.
6 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a waste of money.
And I was
Why
only
would the Birmingham Mail want 6 people in London?
Well, 3 of them worked for the City office for the Birmingham Post, believe it or not.
And so you weren't really in charge of them?
I was, yeah.
No, you weren't.
I was.
Rubbish.
I was Supremo.
Was that your title?
No.
What was your title?
London editor. Yeah.
But it wasn't.
What do you
I bet it wasn't London editor.
Why do you say that? Why do you dispute everything I say?
I don't dispute everything you say, but I dispute things that I know about. And when you come down to be working in the London office of the Birmingham Post and Mail, they would not call you London editor, particularly if you're a junior reporter.
No, I wasn't a junior reporter. I'd already been the chief reporter in Birmingham. That's why I was posted to London. Okay?
I see. Okay.
Anyway, that's another story.
I'm sure you've got a business card you can show me because you keep everything.
I may have somewhere.
Oh, well.
Anyway, so I got there, and the first thing I realised was that the guy who worked directly to me, like the sort of...
The deputy editor?
Well, no, he was chief reporter, actually. We didn't have a deputy editor. It was too big a job to fill. The chief reporter was a thick imbecile called David, right?
Right.
I mean, so thick you couldn't make
How
it
did
up.
he become chief reporter?
Well, because some idiot in Birmingham thought, because he had a London accent and came from
they didn't have very high standards, this organisation, did they?
and came from somewhere like Plaistow or somewhere like that,
Plaistow.
Plaistow, and I know a few coppers at the yard, just get up the yard. I said, well, we're not really interested in London crime, David, we're interested in...
Well, this is why I'm asking, why there are so many people in London?
Well, because we used to cover things like showbiz and all that kind of... I used to interview people like, Hazel, what's her name?
Hazel O'Connor.
Yeah, Hazel O'Connor, Breaking Glass and all that kind of stuff. No, because we had like a national attitude to showbiz and TV and all
does
that.
anybody wonder why newspapers didn't last?
Well, I don't know.
They wasted a fortune on this.
But anyway,
rubbish.
this thick as a brick Dave, I just got up the yard and talked with a few of my...
Chaz and Dave.
Yeah, see if they've been feeling a few collars, you know what I mean, he really thought he was an extra from the Sweeney. So anyway, I decided this guy was, had to go.
Right.
But what I noticed was that occasionally he came in this Lycra stuff, and it's the first time I realised that some people...
Did they even have Lycra then?
Yeah, they did,
really?
yeah. First time I realised...
Had you been given a sort of a prerequisite idea that you were supposed to be sacking people then?
Oh, yeah, I had to shake things up.
Yeah.
I went down there as a hatchet man.
Right.
Yeah, definitely,
Well, you volunteered for that, no doubt.
Well, no, it was part of the
I thought you didn't like sacking people.
No, I didn't. That's just the point. I'm going to tell you about an act of great kindness.
Oh, yeah.
So I noticed that he came in. I said, what are you doing then? He said, I'm a big cycling fan.
Oh, yeah.
I said, oh, really? He said, yeah. He said, it's my hobby. At the weekends, I go off cycling, around Kent and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
I said, oh, yeah. He said, and then sometimes, if I, really have a great weekend, I'm a marshal at a cycling race, in somewhere like, Essex or somewhere. So that's brilliant. Yeah, okay. So I got a brilliant idea in my head. I rang up the editor of Cycling magazine and I said, are you looking for anybody? And he said, well, funny enough, they were. And I said, well, I've got a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
I said, this man is so good, I said, but he's totally distracted from his job here by being obsessive about cycling.
Yeah.
I said, and he'd do a brilliant job for you. And he got the job.
And what was the job there?
Reporter on Cycling magazine.
Chief reporter.
I don't think he was even chief. I think he
Just
was
the only one.
Yeah, he was so excited.
What did he do for a cycling magazine?
Well, you go and report on races and things, you know what I mean?
Right.
And he was so excited, he sent me the cutting of his first report in Cycling magazine. And it was like, it's a monthly magazine.
I didn't realise you'd stitched him up.
No, he had no idea. No idea. And it's a monthly magazine, so this report, this race, was about 6 weeks ago, you know what I mean? Or something like that.
Yeah.
I remember the intro now saying something like, the Kent 23-miler, through Dartford, was the most brilliant race I've ever seen, with a brilliant start and an even more brilliant finish. This is why the guy...
That's unbelievable, isn't it? Is he still alive, do you think?
Well, I doubt it very much indeed. No, he's quite a heavy drinker as well as a cyclist. So.
Well, how can you be a heavy drinker and a cyclist?
I don't know, but he managed to mix the two.
So who else did you get rid of? So that was down to 5 then?
Well, all the city people had to go because they were all boneheads. They all thought...
So they all went?
Well, they thought the world owed them a living, you see,
Right.
and they used to talk gibberish all day about, shares and stocks and all that. But they were only working for a paper that had a circulation in those days of about 25,000.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, nowadays probably
Yeah.
a paper like Daily Express has one city correspondent.
Yes.
Why would the Birmingham Mail want 3?
Well, the reason was because you're talking about an era when Birmingham still believed itself to be the workshop of the world, and they had loads of companies, like Dunlop were based there and all that, and so they said,
but that was more like an industrial job, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well,
a city job.
Well, yeah, there were two aspects to it. The industrial job was the fact that everybody in the Midlands in those days was always on strike.
Yeah.
British Leyland was always on strike.
Right.
The drivers who
British
drove...
Steel.
Yeah, but they weren't in the mid. Well, Bilston, I suppose, in the Black Country, they were on strike. The steel workers, the people who made tyres were on strike.
Yeah.
The people who actually delivered the cars, on these huge transporters, they went on strike. Everybody went on strike all the time.
Everyone was on strike.
Yeah, and the industrial correspondent who got all the stories all the time because he was on the inside was Richard Littlejohn.
Yeah.
Who now, of course, is
columnist of the Daily Mail.
Columnist of the Daily Mail and sometime TV celeb.
Yeah.
So it I mean, look, it was just a fascinating development in the decade of unrest in this country, and one that I steered through manfully. I say it myself.
Well, there's a lot of people who want to talk about your prowess in the stock market business.
Yeah.
How about this from Wrong Star? Can't help but think this Saudi oil company story is another porky attempt to gerrymander the markets somehow.
No, it's not. No.
Davies says, Porky, you plank. Old MG asked, are they hyping the stock price?
Yes.
And Stephen says, now watch shares in Saudi Aramco plummet after the news that Porky is set to invest.
That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Yeah. And Anthony, who knows a bit about these things, because he works in the markets, right?
Oh, yes.
He says this. He sent us a piece of paper which says the original estimate offered by Saudi Arabia, which placed Saudi Aramco's worth at around $2 trillion, was based on a valuation of Saudi Arabia's oil-proven reserves, 261 billion barrels, multiplying that at $8 per barrel. Those reserves alone are worth over $2 trillion. But when Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman made that original estimate, it garnered some scepticism. How could any company be worth such an astronomical sum?
Yes.
So now they're putting their true value closer to $400 billion rather than $2 trillion.
Well, the estimate that... but the estimate I gave you was 1.63 trillion.
Yeah.
So that's not as excessive as the correspondent there was telling us.
Yeah, but 400 billion is not even half a trillion, is it? Because a trillion, I presume,
is
1,000 billion.
That's just somebody sending us a communication expressing his belief in what the true value is. I'm reading it from, very authoritative sources.
I see.
Yes.
Alan says this. I remember Porky on 5 Live after Everton beat Man United in the Cup and said they'd win the final. Yes. Porky's jinxed it again.
Yeah, that was in the semi-final, wasn't it, when we played them? Yeah, and then we lost to Chelsea.
Says, how does Mike Parry describe his talk sport position now after 5 Live, a.k.a. Real Madrid? He thinks it's more like mid-table mediocrity, i.e. Everton.
Oh, no, not at all.
Harsh, isn't it?
No. I mean, we are the best here. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
I don't have any doubts about that.
I have no doubts about it.
5 Live, actually, has not been doing very well, has to be said.
Yeah, exactly. And, we've got the... we are the biggest commercial station in this country and the biggest sports station in the world. There is no doubt about that.
Indeed.
Yes.
Hobbsy, rather, says, I'm listening live from Morocco. That's a new one. Downloaded a few podcasts for my flight home tomorrow. Looking forward to it. And, of course, now that it is the Easter week, the Easter holidays, you won't have to worry about this because you don't have kids. But did you see that Supreme Court judgment yesterday where they've got that guy from the Isle of Wight now having to face jail or at the very least a hefty fine for taking his daughter out of school?
Didn't he go to the Supreme Court, was it?
Well, he didn't go to the Supreme Court. The local authority in the Isle of Wight appealed the case to the Supreme Court.
I see, yeah.
The Supreme Court upheld their view and said, in fact, that they were right and he was wrong. So he now has to go back to Magistrates Court where he's going to be sentenced to either a fine and or prison time for taking his daughter out of school. It's absolutely outrageous.
It is utterly ridiculous.
Incredible.
Utterly ridiculous.
I mean, they've basically now said that it is illegal, which means punishable by a fine and a criminal charge if you take your children out of school.
Utterly ridiculous.
Which is nonsensical, isn't it?
Of course it is. It should be up to the parent themselves. Look, in the long term, what you are prospectively doing is damaging your own child's education. Yeah. So you will make amends, presumably, for the week your child's out of school to make sure that you're not damaging your child's education.
I have total sympathy with the school point of view, which is that we can't just let anybody take their kid out of school whenever. Yeah. And I totally agree with that. But surely there's got to be a commonsensical point of view where if you go to the school headmistress or the headmaster and say, look, there's a reason why we have to do this, not just to save money, but because either it's, grandmother's birthday or some kind of educational trip to Egypt or something. Sure. And they have to give you permission, because if they don't give you permission, which a lot of them don't, they then fine you £60 per parent per child.
I know, but that's almost like a revenue boosting thing, isn't it? To raise money for the school funds, I
mean, I was supposedly going to be fined for taking my kids out of school to go to take them to their grandmother's 90th birthday party.
Really?
Which happened to fall about a week before the Easter holidays.
Oh, was that when you went to America?
It was when I went to America with the kids.
Yeah.
It's about 3 years ago.
I remember, yes.
And they wanted to charge us something like £240.
Yes.
I think it was, for taking 2 kids out of school, which is quite a lot of money to a lot of people.
Yeah, of course.
And in the end, it never actually came to pass. They never actually bothered finding us.
They backed off.
Yeah. But, I mean, what a ridiculous state of affairs.
Don't take on MG.
Well, exactly right. Exactly right. Now, coming up, we're going to be talking about something very, very interesting about the Deep Space Gateway with Dr. Pamela Gay. This is TalkSport.
Great. And he got the job.
And what was the job there?
Reporter on Cycling Magazine.
Chief reporter.
I don't think he was even chief. I think he was
the only one.
Yeah, he was so excited.
What did he do for a cycling magazine?
Well, you go and report on races and things, you know what I mean?
Right.
And he was so excited, he sent me the cutting of his first report in Cycling Magazine. And it was like, it's a monthly magazine.
Didn't realise you'd stitched him up.
No, he had no idea. No idea. And it's a monthly magazine, so this report, this race, was about 6 weeks ago, you know what I mean? Or something like that.
Yeah.
I remember the intro now saying something like, the Kent 23-miler, through Dartford, was the most brilliant race I've ever seen, with a brilliant start and an even more brilliant finish. This is why the guy...
That's unbelievable, isn't it? Is he still alive, do you think?
Well, I doubt it very much indeed. No, he's quite a heavy drinker as well as a cyclist. So.
Well, how can you be a heavy drinker and a cyclist?
I don't know, but he managed to mix the two.
So who else did you get rid of? So that was down to 5 then?
Well, all the city people had to go because they were all boneheads. They all thought...
So they all went?
Well, they thought the world owed them a living, you see,
Right.
and they used to talk gibberish all day about, shares and stocks and all that. But they were only working for a paper that had a circulation in those days of about 25,000.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, nowadays, probably a paper like Daily Express has 1 city correspondent.
Yes.
Why would the Birmingham Mail want 3?
Well, the reason was because you're talking about an era when Birmingham still believed itself to be the workshop of the world, and they had loads of companies, like Dunlop were based there and all that, and so they said,
but that was more like an industrial job, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well,
a city job.
Well, yeah, there were 2 aspects to it. The industrial job was the fact that everybody in the Midlands in those days was always on strike.
Yeah.
British Leyland was always on strike.
Right.
The drivers
British
who drove...
Steel.
But, but they weren't in the mid. Well, Bilston, I suppose, in the Black Country, they were on strike. The steelworkers, the people who made tyres were on strike.
Yeah.
The people who actually delivered the cars, on these huge transporters, they went on strike. Everybody went on strike all the time.
Everyone was on strike.
Yeah, and the industrial correspondent who got all the stories all the time because he was on the inside was Richard Littlejohn.
Yeah.
Who now, of course, is
columnist of the Daily Mail.
Columnist of the Daily Mail and sometime TV celeb.
Yeah.
So I mean, look, it was just a fascinating development in the decade of unrest in this country, and one that I steered through manfully. I say it myself.
Well, there's a lot of people who want to talk about your prowess in the stock market business.
Yeah.
How about this from Wrong Star? Can't help but think this Saudi oil company story is another porky attempt to gerrymander the market somehow.
No, it's not. No.
Davies says, Porky, you plank. Old MG asked, are they hyping the stock price?
Yes.
And Stephen says, now watch shares in Saudi Aramco plummet after the news that Porky is set to invest.
That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Yeah. And Anthony, who knows a bit about these things, because he works in the markets, right?
Oh, yes.
He says this. He sent us a piece of paper which says the original estimate offered by Saudi Arabia, which placed Saudi Aramco's worth at around $2 trillion, was based on a valuation of Saudi Arabia's oil-proven reserves, 261 billion barrels, multiplying that at $8 per barrel. Those reserves alone are worth over $2 trillion. But when Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman made that original estimate, it garnered some scepticism. How could any company be worth such an astronomical sum?
Yes.
So now they're putting their true value closer to $400 billion rather than $2 trillion.
Well, the estimate that... but the estimate I gave you was 1.63 trillion.
Yeah.
So that's not as excessive as the correspondent there was telling us.
Yeah, but 400 billion is not even half a trillion, is it? Because a trillion, I presume, is 1,000 billion.
That's just somebody sending us a communication expressing his belief in what the true value is. I'm reading it from, very authoritative sources.
I see.
Yes.
Alan says this. I remember Porky on 5 Live after Everton beat Man United in the Cup and said they'd win the final.
Yes.
Porky's jinxed it again.
Yeah, that was in the semi-final, wasn't it, when we played them? Yeah, and then we lost to Chelsea.
How does Mike Parry describe his TalkSport position now after 5 Live, a.k.a. Real Madrid? Methinks it's more like mid-table mediocrity, i.e. Everton.
Oh, no, not at all.
Harsh, isn't it?
No. I mean, we are the best here. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
I don't have any doubts about that.
I have no doubts about it.
5 Live, actually, has not been doing very well, has to be said.
Yeah, exactly. And, we've got the... we are the biggest commercial station in this country and the biggest sports station in the world. There is no doubt about that.
Indeed.
Yes.
Hobbsy, rather, says, I'm listening live from Morocco. That's a new one. Downloaded a few podcasts on my flight home tomorrow. Looking forward to it. And, of course, now that it is the Easter week, the Easter holidays, you won't have to worry about this because you don't have kids. But did you see that Supreme Court judgment yesterday where they've got that guy from the Isle of Wight now having to face jail or at the very least, a hefty fine for taking his daughter out of school?
Didn't he go to the Supreme Court, was it?
Well, he didn't go to the Supreme Court. The local authority in the Isle of Wight appealed the case to the Supreme Court.
I see, yeah.
The Supreme Court upheld their view and said, in fact, that they were right and he was wrong. So he now has to go back to Magistrates Court where he's going to be sentenced sentenced to either a fine and or prison time for taking his daughter out of school. It's absolutely outrageous.
It is utterly ridiculous.
Incredible.
Utterly ridiculous.
I mean, they've basically now said that it is illegal, which means punishable by a fine and a criminal charge if you take your children out of school.
Utterly ridiculous.
Which is nonsensical, isn't it?
Of course it is. It should be up to the parent themselves. I mean, look, in the long term, what you are prospectively doing is damaging your own child's education. Yeah. So you will make amends, presumably, for the week your child's out of school to make sure that you're not damaging your child's education.
I have total sympathy with the school point of view, which is that we can't just let anybody take their kid out of school whenever. Yeah. And I totally agree with that. But surely there's got to be a commonsensical point of view where if you go to the school headmistress or the headmaster and say, look, there's a reason why we have to do this, not just to save money, but because either it's, grandmother's birthday or some kind of educational trip to Egypt or something. Sure. And they have to give you permission, because if they don't give you permission, which a lot of them don't, they then fine you £60 per parent per child.
I know, but that's almost like a revenue boosting thing, isn't it? To raise money for the school funds, I
mean, I was supposedly going to be fined for taking my kids out of school to go to take them to their grandmother's 90th birthday party.
Really?
Which happened to fall about a week before the Easter holidays.
Oh, was that when you went to America?
It was when I went to America with the kids.
Yeah.
It's about 3 years ago.
I remember, yes.
And they wanted to charge us something like £240.
Yes.
I think it was, for taking 2 kids out of school, which is quite a lot of money to a lot of people.
Yeah, of course.
And in the end, it never actually came to pass. They never actually bothered finding us.
They backed off.
Yeah. But, I mean, what a ridiculous state of affairs.
So don't take on MG.
Well, exactly right. We are the two Mikes. We're going to talk to Dr. Pamela Gay very, very shortly. She is, of course, from the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. But before we do that, and we apologise to you, Dr. Gay, we've just got the news coming in that the US has carried out a series of missile attacks in Syria, basically in response to the Syrian government's chemical weapons attack this week. Donald Trump and the Trump White House made some noises earlier on in the day that something would have to be done. Yes. And it looks very much as though something has been done, and it's the first time the White House has ordered military action against forces loyal to Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian president. We don't yet know exactly what's happened, but it looks like at least 60 missiles have been fired into Syria. It's a lot of missiles, by the way. Which is a lot of missiles.
And you have to remember the delicacy of the relationship between America and Russia. Russia, who are an outspoken and very, very vocal supporter of the Assad regime.
Well, exactly. And also, of course, there's the Russian involvement as well. Although the Russians, I think, earlier on had said this week that, the Syrians shouldn't expect their loyal support over absolutely everything that they do.
That's right.
And apparently they were fired from 2 warships in the Mediterranean Sea. They targeted a government-controlled site. At least 80 people have been killed, of course, previously in this chemical attack. We'll bring you more details on this as soon as we've got them. But what it does signal is that Donald Trump is doing more in the first sort of few months of his presidency than Barack Obama ever did, because he was always very reluctant to get involved in military action in Syria.
Well, the interesting thing is that Barack Obama decided to sort of close the curtain around America, didn't he? Didn't want to look overseas. And funnily enough, one of the first speeches Mrs May made, our own Prime Minister, when she got into government here, was to say we weren't going to recklessly fight wars overseas. Right. And she said that, we believed at the time, in consultation with the new president, Mr Trump.
Well, we'll follow this one as it unfolds over the course of the next couple of hours.
There was a huge wave of sort of revulsion around the world after those gas attacks and some particularly distressing pictures of the effect it had on children.
Absolutely disgraceful, Let's talk to Dr. Pamela Gay, though, anyway. Dr. Pamela Gay, very good morning to you. Apologies for keeping you waiting, but there's a bit of a breaking news story going on.
I focus on things off this planet, and sometimes we need to look down as well as up.
Yes, absolutely right. Exactly. And, I mean, sometimes I suppose when you do have the opportunity to look up instead of what is going on around you, maybe part of what that's all about is to maybe create a better place to live for everybody.
It's true, and the only way we're going to get off this world is if we figure out how to all work together. It's just too hard of a problem that requires too much creativity for any one nation to think that they have all the expertise, all the ideas, and all the genius to accomplish it alone.
No, quite. Now, we're talking to you tonight specifically about this Deep Space Gateway. Tell us a little bit about that.
So this is a new plan being put forward by Boeing Corporation, which has done a lot of things for the NASA Space Agency. This is going to be an add-on to their current Space Launch Systems, which is the big rocket system they're working on. Uh-huh. It's going to be built during 4 different upcoming missions spread out across many years. But when it's done, it will give us a new space station that, instead of orbiting the Earth only 300 miles up, is instead going to be orbiting the moon.
Orbiting the moon. That's a fantastic development, Doc. And will this mean that will be like a platform to leap, beyond the space that we know at the moment in its accessibility to man's exploration?
Well, this is certainly the hope, and this is certainly how they named it. The Deep Space Gateway should get everyone thinking of this is how we get beyond the Earth, beyond the moon, and to Mars, and maybe beyond. It is going to be someplace where it's thought astronauts can meet up, build their build their spacecraft to get on to Mars, and it's a platform that has everything they'll need to get off to the right start as well. Hopefully we start towards Mars.
And what's different from other sort of programs that have already been put into place and this? I mean, is this something, I mean, it's being planned to be sort of up and running as early as 2020, which is not very far away, really. Is this going to sort of put together all of the other ideas that other people have got, or is this going to be another separate sort of entity, if you know what I mean?
This is basically, sometimes it's location. This one has a new location. Our current space station is snuggled right up next to the Earth. And it's so close to our planet that it really doesn't help a lot when it comes to overcoming the Earth's gravity, when it comes to having a ready platform for just dropping down onto the moon. This is going to be in a new location out closer to the moon. It's going to have the ability to change its orbit to allow spacecraft to leave it and head off to different places in our solar system, and to regularly go up and down from the surface of the moon. It's sometimes just as simple as putting your space station in the right place.
Does this alter the whole concept of what we believe at the moment, Doc, an astronaut is all about? Because you're going now to areas we haven't been before. You're also going into areas where we don't know if people will ever come back from it. I mean, isn't it going to alter the whole concept of what an astronaut's all about? The moment astronauts go up into space, they come back on short-term missions. They can be long-term, but they're very much in touch with the Earth. But that's not going to be the case in the future, is it?
No, it's definitely transitioning from that time when you have the hero explorers who are risking their lives and coming home with maps of the new world, of the new continents, the other side of whichever ocean you decide to cross.
Yeah.
Well, our ocean lately has just been the atmosphere. Well, now we're moving to the point where it's people leaving and knowing they're never going to come back, sort of like the first people to settle in Australia, the first people to settle in America. We weren't just explorers, we were settlers, and we're now looking towards the future where we settle on the moon, we settle on Mars, and we spread our humanity out so that, well, we're safe in more than one place.
And presumably you'd have to be quite careful about the selection process for who you would choose, because not only would you be choosing people who were obviously astronauts, but you would want people from all walks of life. So there'd have to be some kind of program put into place, would there not, Doctor, which would be a sort of, even a psychological type program, so that you would make sure that you weren't bringing up anybody who was going to be a problem.
That's entirely true. And NASA's actually been finding ways to run those sorts of real-world experiments here on the safety of our own planet. We have underwater experiment stations where people get isolated from everything, including the sun and air, and have to survive underwater. We have Antarctica, where people have been wintering for years. And each of these start to give us a taste of how bad it's going to be literally locked in a tin can. With this new Deep Space Gateway, they're looking to be able to extend this experiment to 100 days, 300 days out at lunar orbit, where it's no longer just an easy up-down from, a launch pad in Florida.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and Doc, is this all in the long term to do with what we've heard prophesied by, some of the brightest scientists in the world, that eventually man's going to have to find somewhere else to live as well as the Earth.
It's true. Our planet is going to get more and more uninhabitable for us over time. Exactly how long that's going to take is somewhat up to us, but also up to the sun. And we probably don't have more than 100,000 years, which sounds like a long time, but when you have to settle an entirely different planet, it's not that long at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I see.
It's going to be fascinating stuff. Well, listen, Dr. Gay, thank you very much
indeed, Doc.
I'm sure we'll talk again some more about it when we've got perhaps a little bit more time, but we're a little pressed tonight because of the events going on in Syria. That's Dr. Pamela Gay, who is, of course, from the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. Yeah. And at one point or other in the near future, possibly as soon as 3 years from now, there will be a launch system in place to go...
A mission to Mars.
Mission to Mars. Who can tell?
We had a discussion the other night, right, about, you going on about this ridiculous theory about, the oceans rising and all these islands disappearing.
It's not a ridiculous theory.
And all that, right?
The level of the oceans is actually rising. It's not a theory.
But guess what I've discovered?
What have you discovered?
Even if it happened, do you know how we'd get over it?
How?
We're going to start drinking seawater in massive amounts soon. No, we are. We are.
Oh, well, you think that's going to lower the level of the sea?
Of course it will. If the world population starts drawing water out the sea, when in drought areas,
what do you think will happen then?
Well, it'll keep even if the ice poles melt, it won't matter because we'll be drinking it all.
Well, no, you won't be drinking it all because what do you think happens when you drink water?
Eh?
What do you think happens when you drink water?
Well, yeah, but we'll be transferring it into the land, onto the land. Out of the
water,
oceans,
the water,
and then arid parts of like the Sahara will suddenly flower.
Do you not think there's a sort of finite amount of water on the Earth, as it were? It doesn't really alter, does it?
Well, circulatory, maybe not, but in total quantity, yes, it can.
Well, yeah, but if you take the water from the sea...
Yes.
And are you talking about desalinating it?
Well, this is what I'm getting to. They've discovered that something called graphene, Graphene, this is from one of my science journals.
Graphene, I've heard of that.
Yeah, is being used to remove salt from seawater, and scientists say it's going to so improve the efficiency of desalination that we will within maybe a decade, be able to irrigate areas of the world which now suffer from terrible drought.
Well, we have desalination plants all over the world.
But they're very, very expensive.
They are.
This is not. This thing, graphene, they'll develop something called a graphene sieve. And you'll be able to get communities on, shores in places like Sri Lanka and India and all that, which is arid.
Right.
And all you do
is not that arid in Sri Lanka. It's quite a lot of jungle there.
I didn't mean Sri Lanka. I meant like sub-Sahara Africa. And you just put a pipe into the sea,
right? And
then you just suck loads and loads of seawater in through the pipe. And by the time it's pouring out the other end onto the arid desert, which will flower, it's pure water.
What, through the pipe?
Through the pipe,
really?
Yeah. There's a.
How the hell can they do that?
Because there's a graphene sieve in the middle of the pipe.
What is this graphene sieve?
It takes salt out of the water and turns it into ordinary water.
Right. That doesn't sound cheap, though.
What?
That doesn't sound cheap.
It's a lot cheaper than desalination plants. It's just a pipe. It says it forms a regular lattice with a hole size similar to the diameter of water molecules.
Yeah.
And scientists have now perfected the use of compound graphene oxide as a filter in the process, which swells in water and removes the salt.
Right.
They've managed to stop what was previously a swelling effect, which sent the salt back into the water. You keep the holes in the lattice small enough to stop salt, but big enough to allow water through. You see? This is the graphene sieve.
Right.
So
the bottom line is, that if they can take enough water out of the sea, that they can kill two birds with one stone.
Definitely.
Or effectively keep two birds alive.
Yes, that's
with
right.
one stone.
That's right.
Because the water in the sea will dissipate.
Yes.
And then the water on the land will be able to be used to irrigate.
It will flower the land.
Yeah.
So, for instance...
Well, sounds a bit too good to be true.
No. It's not just the third world. Guess who is, first of all, going to get into this in a big way?
Bill Gates.
Well, maybe, but it's California. The Californian government, like the California
because they've got no water. They need to.
Exactly.
They need to.
So desalination is needed increasingly.
Desalination
is increasingly in areas like the Arabian Peninsula, Australia and California, where governments have invested heavily in this new technology to purify seawater. and also in Manchester.
Manchester?
Yeah, I mean, there's no
They
drought.
don't need any water there.
No, there's no
They've
drought.
got plenty of water in Manchester. In fact, funnily enough, last year,
yeah.
when we went to do the show at the Dance House,
yes.
and we went into that, if you remember, we had to walk over to the betting shop.
On the day of the Grand National.
On the day of the Grand National. And it was absolutely tipping it down. I've never seen rain like it.
Yeah, it's right.
They don't need a desalination plant there.
But the problem is, because they've got lots of water, it's a load of Manchester scientists who've been very influential in this breakthrough.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
All right.
So
basically, it all
basically,
sounds very good in theory, but I cannot see it reducing the level of the seawater on the Earth.
Oh,
generally.
it will, because this graphene sieve is...
I mean, it's like putting a straw into the serpentine, right?
Yes.
And sucking it out with your mouth and expecting the level of the serpentine to drop.
Well, it wouldn't.
Well, of course it wouldn't.
But what I'm saying is, this mad theory of yours that, we're going to all get flooded because there's too much water.
It's not a mad theory of mine.
Yeah, well, it's not going to happen anyway. But even if it did, we'd pump it all into the Sahara. I don't
believe that.
In the next lifetime, the Sahara could be like the Garden of Eden.
Well, people think, for example, that because of the way the world is changing in its temperature and its climate, that there could be a time where up in sort of southern Scotland, there will be Mediterranean-style vineyards.
Oh, that's been going on for years.
That's that's what I think will happen.
Well, the Romans. Ridiculous theory. The Romans used to have vineyards north of Hadrian's Wall.
Yeah, I know.
Because of the climate change.
Well, no, they didn't have anything north of Hadrian's Wall. That's why they built Hadrian's Wall.
No, but they did.
No,
they did.
The Romans did not go beyond Hadrian's Wall. That's why they built it.
Well, on Hadrian's Wall itself, they had vineyards because they had to grow wine to keep the soldiers.
They might have had the odd vine.
No, actually, they did. They had to.
So now it's on Hadrian's Wall.
They had to grow wine to give to the soldiers because you know that patrolling Hadrian's Wall was the worst posting in the whole of the Roman Empire army.
They weren't keen on the Picts, that's why.
They
weren't keen on the Picts.
No, they weren't keen on the Picts. You're absolutely right. Not only that, funnily enough that we're talking about Romans now, because funnily enough, in one of my historical journals today, I found out a lot more about Caligula than I didn't know before.
What, Caligula the Emperor?
Caligula the Emperor?
Yeah. Have you seen the film?
Have
you seen the film?
I haven't seen the film.
With Helen Mirren.
Is it good?
Well, it was famous for being a porn film that was also starring major league stars like Helen Mirren.
Yeah.
And what's his face? Roddy McDowell. And
oh,
a few
yeah,
other
that's
people
right.
Like that,
yeah.
Because it was made by Bob Guccione.
Yes, that's
the
right.
Penthouse guy, right?
That's right.
But what he didn't tell them was when he was filming all the sort of supposedly, straight bits.
Yes.
He was also filming a load of hard porn.
Interjecting it all
around the place.
Yeah.
So some of the people like Helen Mirren weren't too happy about it.
No, they weren't. But it was all justified because Caligula. The one thing Caligula used to love was a 3-day orgy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, he loved a 3-day orgy.
Who doesn't?
And what he did was exactly. What he did was he built these huge boats, like the modern equivalent
he also had the horse,
of ocean liners. Well, he made his horse a senator and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But he built these huge boats so that nobody could bother him while he was having his orgy, because these boats used to float in the middle of all these lakes in Italy.
Oh, so he had the orgies on the boats.
He had the orgies
to sing.
Yeah, well,
if you're going to keep singing, I'm going to have to start singing.
Get carried away.
A lot of people were very complimentary about my singing of "You'll Never Walk Alone" at the weekend, actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was just political claptrap.
It was not political claptrap. I was just joining in because it was a very sort of emotional moment for anyone watching the Merseyside derby.
Emotional? Ties
emotional moment. I have loads of ties with Liverpool. You have no idea.
Can we just get on with
I've told you that I used to go to Liverpool games with my sister when I was about 12 or 13 years of age.
Yeah, you were a cop-out, were you?
She was a Liverpool fan. I was not. She fancied Steve Highway. That was why we used to go.
Yeah.
And I didn't. But I went along to keep her company.
Right, get on with it.
Now, here's one for... I've got loads of questions here, some from Facebook, some from Twitter.
Yes.
If you can answer them all as briefly as possible.
I will.
And as helpfully as possible.
I will. I'm here to help.
Here's one from Josh. When my daughter becomes old enough to play games, do I let her win or do I play properly so she learns how to lose?
You must initially allow her to win, because that will really, really stimulate her enthusiasm to get involved. Now, what happens is she gets on a winning streak. She says, I like this. I like the idea of the sense of achievement by playing a game and winning it, OK? Then you start to shift the goalposts a little bit to make it more difficult for her to win. And then when she starts losing, you gauge the character and the personality of the girl to see how she responds to the negatives as well as the positives.
I see.
OK?
Thank you. Pete says this, as well as a bull worker, what else is in the Porky Gym?
Well, I don't have a gym. What I have is I have a kind of spare room, and I keep, a lot of files in there and journals and that kind of stuff. And that's where my bulwarker is. I believe the very best exercise you can possibly do, and this is backed up by a lot of medical experts, is walking. And if you walk 3 or 4 miles a day, 2 or 3 times a week, you're doing yourself a hell of a favour, and you're not doing your joints in like you would be doing it if you were a jogger.
Here's one from Kevin. Porky, I'm off to New York City for Easter. Apart from the sightseeing sites, can you recommend any good places to eat and for bladderation?
Ain't they pretty, New York City girls? I love it. I would get on at this time of the year, seriously, with spring coming, I'd get on the Circle Line. And that's a boat that goes round Manhattan, goes under all the bridges, passes all the tunnels, all the huge buildings.
Yeah, but I think he's going to do that, but I think he's looking for restaurants.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, the New York scene changes so rapidly that I'm better asking you about that. But I noticed the other day, you always recommend to people Smolensky's, 49th and 3rd.
Smith and Walensky's, yeah.
Yeah, Smith and...
it's all Smith and Walensky's.
Smith and Walensky's. 49th and 3rd, can't beat it. Historically, it has no peer.
Lord Matthew says this on Twitter. My daughter was born yesterday and will be coming home today. When can we get back on the bladderation trail?
Well, I'd forget the bladderation trail for a while. I mean, you've every right to wet the baby's head, of course, get a few of your mates around or get out there and celebrate with them, get the cigar on, bottle of champagne, glass of champagne or something. But you are now a father, and you have huge responsibilities to bring your child up. If you said it's a little girl, you've got even more responsibilities because you've got to make sure she knows her daddy's there to help her for the rest of her life.
Indeed. Luke and Nikki have asked this on Twitter. Yes. What's the worst trouble you've ever got yourself into? Remember, it's a family show.
Yeah, I try not to get myself into trouble, but I have embarked on 1 or 2 business ventures which didn't actually turn me into the multimillionaire I wanted to be, and it's always difficult to extricate yourself from those. But the biggest problem is always if you're affecting other people. But I can say, hand on heart, whenever I've got into a pickle, I've got out and I've always made sure nobody else suffered.
Stuart says this on Facebook. I've arranged financial matters so that my mortgage is paid off a year before my first child goes to university.
Yeah.
But my wife now has her eye on a more expensive, bigger house.
Yeah.
Should I stay here for financial security in the future or move for more space and a bigger garden?
No, you've got to move, man. You've got to move. Believe me, I didn't know when I started buying property some 35 years ago that it would prove to be such a gold mine of long-term prosperity. But that's what property is, believe me. And you wouldn't believe how some of the people that we worked with in Fleet Street who'd sort of, come back to Fleet Street after the Second World War, they bought houses in Notting Hill for £10,000, which they're worth £7 million.
Yeah.
It's honestly, you can't beat property.
OK, here's one from Arthur, who sent it in on Twitter. Mr. Parry, I've been at work since Monday with a bad back and can hardly walk.
Yeah.
But if I don't work, I don't get paid. What should I do?
Well, you've got to keep working, man, but you've got to look after your back as well. I mean, you haven't told me what job you do. If you are a shop assistant and you're standing up on your feet all day, that's agony. So you've got to do something about it. If, however, you have a desk job, it means you're sitting most of the day. That in itself could have put your back out. I recommend you get to a back specialist sooner rather than later.
OK, here's one from Nicola. Porky, if you could be any age for a week, what age would that be and why? She's from Exeter.
Well, I understand what you're saying. I had a great decade during the 70s. I had a more responsible decade during the 80s. I suppose, really, I loved being the news editor of the Daily Express for 5 years. That was in the 80s, and the technology was such that newspapers were a big thing in those days. You felt you were on top of the world, so that wasn't bad. But I haven't really had bad years, so it's difficult to say. I quite enjoy now being on the other side of the hill, so to speak, and the parabola coming down, because most of the worries of what's going to happen to you in your life have happened.
You're on a parabola, eh?
Yeah.
You could get help
everybody
with
is. Everybody is. You go up and you hit the top. It's like a space rocket, and then you slide down the other side. But sliding down the other side, if you've looked after all the problems, you should be comfortable.
OK, Ali says this. We are moving house in 2 days' time, and our 2 new locals are a little insular.
Yeah.
Should we avoid them or persevere and try and make a social connection with these rather inward-looking people?
Well, it's a bit unkind to call them inward. They're from a community, which is their community. They've grown up in it. I personally don't like small communities. I certainly don't like, a choice of only 2 pubs day in, day out, because you become known and people know your business and they are watching what you're doing and, they can talk and gossip, whatever. So I don't like small communities. So if I were you, I'd broaden your horizons and Walk a couple of miles to, the next location.
Yeah, that would be popular with the locals, wouldn't it? They can just look out the window and see you walking to another pub.
What's it got to do with them?
Well, when you live in a community,
do your own thing.
It's not always easy to avoid.
You don't have to immerse yourself in a community. Right. Stand out and stand away from it.
Johnny says this, Porky, have you ever worn that hideous Canada T-shirt since the Cinnamon Challenge? I bet the stains are still present.
No, not at all. That belonged to my nephew, Tom, because that was filmed in the back garden of my sister's house in Bournemouth. And in fact, I didn't even have a T-shirt when we decided to do it. And I said, he's a big lad.
I'm amazed that you didn't have that sort of preparation. Why didn't you have a T-shirt to do it?
I wasn't even preparing to do it until we got there and decided to do it. Because he'd seen it.
So it was as a result of a conversation with him?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the answer is no. But we've still got it. In fact, I suppose it'd be worth quite a lot of money, really, one of these days if I sign it, because 30 million people have now seen it.
That's true.
Yes.
Now, a couple of Grand National related questions. I'm going to run them together.
Yep.
Jason says this. So you are facing the chair at the Grand National. Do you need a good spring or a safe landing to overcome it? You might like that one. Or this one from Kerry. Porky, as you're the master of all sports and all things financial, can you give me the winner of the Grand National?
No, I can't, because the problem is I saw the list of 70 horses the other day, which were originally entered for the Grand National. 40 runners will eventually start the race, right?
So will 30 disappear then off the list?
Yeah, that's right. They will. Yes, they will. Definitely will. And it's such a huge race with so many pitfalls, so many fences, so many obstacles that you'd be mad. Nobody could ever possibly say there's a dead cert favourite for the Grand National. That's impossible. So you've got a choice of half a dozen horses, and that could be, if I gave you 6, that would be 6 out of possibly 20 that you could say I'll put my money on. So I don't advise anybody. It would be wrong because I couldn't possibly be right.
Parker says this, like you, my team are rubbish. Instead of constant pain, can you suggest another sport to follow? This guy's a Blackburn Rovers fan, by the way.
Well, you've got loads of problems at Blackburn. I mean, the what's the name of the family? The
Venkeys.
Venkeys, that's right. Yeah, the Venkeys who own it seem to mostly be based in India, and they seem to have a problem locating with the local people because there's always seems to be a fan revolt going on there. So I do feel sorry for you because you were the outstanding Premier League winners of the early days of the Premier League, but you have got real problems, and there's not a lot of clubs that have similar problems to yours. Certainly mine hasn't. I hope it resolves itself for you.
Here's another football question. Enzo says, will Juventus win the Champions League?
Well, they might, but I think Real Madrid are going to win it because I think that team is geared up to Champions League football, particularly with Gareth Bale back and Ronaldo, of course, wanting to cement what's been an incredible year for him, footballing year, that is, being the captain of the European champions, being already the holder of the Champions League trophy and winning World Player of the Year. I think Real Madrid.
Porky says, Jamie, how do you solve a problem like North Korea?
Yeah. I think you'll find, because I've been talking to my military contacts, in military intelligence, that North Korea, they reckon, are about 3 years away from being able to put a nuclear warhead on top of one of their rockets.
Oh, yeah.
They fire the rockets up in the air all the time, but there's nothing on them at the moment. And that's the reason why President Trump made, quite a very, very strong statement telling China to look after North Korea, or he will, because it will come within the remit, they think, of his 4-year term as president.
Yes, so he's going to deal with them one way or the other.
Yes.
Stuart says this, on the other hand, it was WrestleMania on the weekend. If you were a pro wrestler, what would your wrestling name be and why?
First time I saw Worldwide, whatever it's called, is it WWF?
WWF, yes.
Yeah, it was in...
or WWE.
Yeah, somewhere in Ohio, and specifically to go and see The Undertaker. Who kicked his opponent out of the ring into a coffin and all that kind of stuff.
Somebody sent me something about him, actually. I think he's just retired.
He's just retired, yeah, okay, yeah. Well, anyway, the point is I would never get involved in it anyway because I think it's theatre, it's not sport, so, But if I ever did become a WWF or a WWE wrestler, I would, of course, be called the Porkmeister.
The Porkmeister?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
And that's a fair enough one, I suppose.
Yes.
Oliver says this, what should I do? I have a diesel SUV and can't afford £20 added tax.
Yeah. Well, I'm delighted that there are some murmurs now in political circles that Theresa May, our Prime Minister, is saying, look, this clampdown on diesel vehicles and charging them huge fines for driving into cities is wrong because it was politicians who advised people to buy into diesel in the first place. However, the other side of that coin is that people who own diesel cars are becoming increasingly worried that their value is decreasing decreasing rapidly because of the scourge of the diesel engine, which do-gooders and clean air fanatics are promulgating.
Although it's only from 2014 and back, so actually you should be all right.
Yeah.
Because you said it was all diesels yesterday, but it's only from 2014. Porky says, Richard, do you wear a pedometer, and how many steps would you say you walk in a day?
No, I don't wear a pedometer. I don't need to, because the way you feel good about walking is to walk so that you can feel the air going in and out of your lungs, and particularly in sunlight, it has a very beneficial effect on your skin. You get vitamin D from being out in the fresh air and walking at speed because it pumps your heart and absorbs vitamin D at the same time. Don't need a pedometer because that means that you're putting yourself into a regime of you must go that far. You go as far as you comfortably feel you can.
OK, one final one from Paul.
Yes.
Where can I buy a cucumber directory and a copy of the Helicopter Weekly?
You can buy Helicopter Weekly at any good newsagent, providing you ask the newsagent to order it for you, because it's a very
specialty magazine.
It's a specialty magazine, and it's not widely distributed. As for the cucumber, I would just get yourself a copy of one of the multitude of gardening magazines on sale everywhere, and specialise in the section marked cucumbers.
OK, thank you very much. That was indeed Ask Porky. There'll be another one same time next week. We didn't get to your question. We apologise. We will try and get there again sometime in the future. But also, don't forget, if you wish to watch the proceedings that you just heard, then you can go to Facebook Live and it can be recorded right there.